Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Hello again. My name is Chris Hawes, and I am going to talk to you today about our last two steps to getting closer to God. We're going to look at dhikr and keeping yourself pure. We began last time with a saying of the Prophet Muhammad's, peace be upon him and his family, in which he told us to keep away from what casts doubt in you in favor of what does not make you doubtful. One of the keys that we have to keep in mind if we are to be serious about getting closer to God is to not have doubt. Doubt is what will destroy our faith. Doubt is going to be that termite that's eating away at the 2x4s in our house, in which eventually the house would collapse. Doubt is a dangerous and is a very destructive force. And so the prophet is telling us, keep away from that which casts doubt in us, undermining our faith, and instead surround yourself with that which does not make you doubtful, but instead bolsters your faith. And I don't think he would say it's not good to question, or it's not good to ponder things. But what he's talking about is that nagging doubt, the whisperings of shaitan, as if you will, where we are in a situation and we start thinking, well, maybe it's not so bad if I go do this, or maybe it just once isn't going to hurt anything. That becomes the slippery slope. If we have questions about doctrines of our faith or practices of our faith, there are people that we can go to and we can ask about and dialogue with to help us to understand why we practice what we practice and why we believe what we believe. Our Shia faith is firmly planted on a solid foundation, and we don't need to be afraid of questioning those foundations and coming up with good answers as to why we believe what we believe and practice what we practice. So I don't believe the prophet is talking about that. He's talking about these nagging little doubts when we find ourselves in a situation and we hear people, they're talking about co-workers, or they're talking about other students in the class. They're gossiping about these people, and we might know something about the person, and that temptation is there to chime in and join the conversation, and we get that little whisper saying, well, it's all right. You're just providing more information. That's what you're doing. You're just providing more information. You aren't really gossiping. So that's what I believe the prophet is talking about. And we need to protect ourselves from that kind of negative, debasing environment and put ourselves into an environment that won't generate those doubts regarding our daily lives. The last session, we looked at guidance, the guidance that our God has provided for us in the Quran and in the Ahlul Bayt. We also looked at companionship, who it is that we surround ourselves with. And we said that at that time, it's important to have a good guide. If we are traveling in an unknown city, as my wife and I are doing here in the Los Angeles area, we have a GPS so that we can have a guide to get us to where we need to go. Without the GPS, we would rely on a map, and if we missed a turn or whatever, it's very difficult to get back on route. So it's excellent practice to have your good guide with you and to make sure that you know what is in this good guide, to be familiar with what our prophet and our imams have said regarding how we are to live our day-to-day lives. So having a good guide is imperative. Surrounding ourselves with good friends, good company, keeping ourselves in a good environment is also essential. If we don't have that good environment, we're opening ourselves up to temptations that can lead us away. Today, I want to look at, first off, dhikr and then keeping ourselves pure. In the Quran, we are told over and over again that we are to remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Let's look at, first of all, chapter 33, verse 41. Here we read the words of our God. You who believe, remember God often. Celebrate Him morning and evening. He is the one who accepts prayers from you, as do His angels, to lead you out of darkness into light. He is merciful with believers. Their greeting on the day they meet Him will be peace. He has prepared generous payment for them. What wonderful words here that we read. You who believe, remember God often. Do this by celebrating Him morning and evening. Why? Because He's the one who's going to accept the prayers from us. He's the one who leads us out of darkness into the light. So remember Him often. If we remember Him often, we will reinforce the guiding work of the Quran and the Ahlul Bayt. We will reinforce the guiding work of our good friends by constantly making God Himself present in our lives. It's very easy if you're at work, you're at school, you're in various activities, either extracurricular sports activities or involved in various organizations and meetings, to get wrapped up in the day-to-day hustle and bustle, the day-to-day workings of our lives. And those, because they're right here in front of us, take up our time and often take up all of our attention. We don't see God other than what He has provided for us to reflect who He is. But when we look at the clouds in the sky, or we look at a flower, or we look at a squirrel running up a tree, or we look at our children, or our parents, or our friends, we see them as flowers and squirrels and trees and clouds and people. We don't see them as reflections of God. But the Quran, throughout the entire Revelation, continually reminds us that the creation is here because He put it here, and it reflects who He is. Dhikr, remembering God, is critical in our reassessing what it is we see about us. If we see everything about us as really being a manifestation of God, a reflection of His glory, His majesty, His beauty, His perfection, then we will be alive. Our faith will have taken a new step, will move into a new direction because we will see God around us in everything that we do. There are many, many ways that we can remember God. And the methodology, I don't think is so important as actually just doing it. Remembering Him, whether that remembrance is to form a habit of reading the Quran maybe every morning, and maybe on your lunch break if you can. Maybe reading it at night before you go to bed. To constantly remind yourself that this apple here came from God. He's the one who gave it. It reflects the beauty, the majesty, the sustaining power of God. This isn't just an apple, but this also can help lead us to understand things about our God and make us mindful of our God. Zen practitioners are always focused on mindfulness. When you eat, for example, a Zen master will say, empty your mind of everything but eating. Focus on the food. Focus on the drink. Empty your mind of everything else and enjoy eating. When you're driving, empty your mind of everything but driving. Focus on the act of driving, not thinking of anything else. When I have done that, just focused on what I am doing, it's amazing the things that you begin to be aware of. When I drive, I try to focus on just driving. And I become aware of the car and of its noises and its motions and how it sounds. I can tell if something isn't quite sounding right. And I listen to see if maybe this is a problem or if this is just some quirk that's developed. But I'm aware of it, that it's happened, because my mind is focused on driving. When I eat, the nuances of the food begin to grow, begin to take on a wonderful sensation on the tongue and in the nose. If I was busy talking or reading or watching TV, I would just be eating and I would be missing the glory that is here in the food. Now, in Zen Buddhism, they don't believe in God, so the mindfulness stops there. For us as Muslims, mindfulness is a form of dhikr, remembering God. Because as we are mindful about our food, we are mindful of who gave us the food. We are mindful of who gave us the job to earn the money to buy the food. Mindful of the person who prepared the food. And that person is also a reflection of God. As we become mindful, suddenly this little simple act grows in proportion and becomes as vast as the universe itself. And that's what God wants. He wants us to remember Him, to see Him in every little act that we do, in everything that is out there. He wants us to see Him in it. In chapter 13, verse 28, our God tells us that He lets anyone He wishes go astray and guides to Himself anyone who feels concerned. The ones who believe and whose hearts feel tranquil through remembering God. Surely, hearts feel tranquil whenever God is mentioned. These characteristics are tied to the one that God is guiding. Remembering our God is an important part of His guidance of us. If we are remembering Him, we have a surety that He is guiding us. That's what it says here in this text. If we are not remembering Him, it could be a sure sign He is letting us go astray. That's also what the text is saying. So, remembering God is not something to take lightly. It is something that we need to do, those of us who are sincere about our faith. If faith is just another thing that we do because, hey, my friends are doing it and my family's done it and, everybody around me is a Shia and I was born into a Shia family and that's wonderful. We are in danger of slipping off the path. And that's why our God says, for those who are being guided, they're the ones who are remembering me. It's a sign that they are being guided because they are remembering me. They see me in everything. Vicar is exceedingly important in our lives. The final step that I would like to look at is keeping ourselves pure. All of these steps go hand in hand. Guidance, companionship with our friends and our spouse, remembering God, all enable us to keep ourselves pure. Our God tells us in chapter 87, verse 14, anyone who purifies himself, mentions his Lord's name, and prays, will prosper. Let's look at that again. Anyone who purifies himself, that's one, mentions his Lord's name and prays, will prosper. I don't think it necessarily means prosper materialistically, but will definitely prosper spiritually. The next verses show us the opposite. Instead, you prefer worldly life, whereas the hereafter is better and more enduring. What a condemnation. This revelation came to Muhammad to give to the Meccans. And it's condemning them, saying, you prefer worldly life. But if you were to purify yourself, mention my name, pray, you would have prosperity. I'm going to tell two stories here, or one story with two sheikhs, depends on how you want to look at it. There was a young sheikh who was walking through a town, and he was a stranger in this town. And he walked by the house of a person who hated the believers. And this person was always looking out for the young sheikhs in order to try to lead them astray. And so when this sheikh came through town, this man was out there right away, and he said, Salam alaikum, you look tired, you've undoubtedly been traveling. Why don't you come to my house for some refreshment? And the sheikh said, well, no, I'm okay. He says, no, I insist, come. So the young man went to the house of the older man. And as he entered it, the older man closed the door, barred the door, and said, okay, young man, you have a choice. Go into that room, and your choice is that you must either drink the bottle of wine that is there, or you must be with my daughter. You must do one of the two, or I will not let you out of here. Well, the sheikh, younger than the old man, made an attempt to leave, but was prevented because the man had a big sword. So the young sheikh, not sure what to do, goes into the room, and there's the man's daughter, beautiful, beautiful young woman, and there's the bottle of wine. And the sheikh says, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? If I drink the wine or if I am with the woman, either way, I'm going to be compromised, and my name will be ruined. And he comes back out to the old man. He says, have mercy on me, and the old man says, if I let you out this door, I will say that you were with my daughter and drank my wine, and your reputation will be ruined. So take your pick. Oh, the sheikh doesn't know what to do. He looks and he says, well, the lesser of the two evils would probably be to drink the wine. So he drinks the wine, but having never drunk wine before, he is quickly intoxicated, and in doing so, he then ends up with the man's daughter. And when the old man hears this going on, he rushes out into the street and says, help me, this man is taking advantage of my daughter. And the townspeople come in, and the sheikh, of course, is compromised. Now let's look at another sheikh. He's walking through town, much like the first sheikh, and he runs across, again, an old woman who has it in for the believers. And so she says to the sheikh, you look tired, thirsty. Please come, have a bite to eat and some water to drink before you continue on your way. And the sheikh says, well, I am tired and I could use a rest. And so he goes in, and the old woman closes the door, bars it, and the sheikh says, what's going on here? And the old woman says, before you can come out of here, you must go into the next room and entertain my daughter. And the sheikh says, well, I can't do that. And she says, well, if you don't, I'm going to start screaming that you are attacking me and my daughter. And the sheikh says, oh, brother, what did I get myself into? So he thinks about it, and he goes into the next room in the house, and there's the woman's daughter, very beautiful daughter, very enticing young woman, and the sheikh is praying his heart out to God, please deliver me from this. And suddenly he gets an idea, and he says to the young woman, do you have a bathroom that I can use? And she looks at him and says, well, what do you want to use a bathroom for? Well, it would be better if I freshen up before we did what we were going to do. And okay, and she shows him the bathroom. And so the young man goes in there, and he defecates, and he smears the feces all over himself, and then he walks out back into the room, and the young woman says, what have you done? What have you done? And the young sheikh said, the only way that I could get out of this dilemma is by making myself unclean. I couldn't flee as the prophet Yusuf, but I could make myself unclean. Keeping yourself pure is a difficult task in a world that is secular. Keeping yourself pure involves being very much aware of the temptations that surround you every day. Now, these two stories are fanciful that I told, but they illustrate a point. And the point is this: you never get ahead by taking the lesser of the two evils. Evil is evil. It doesn't matter if it's greater or lesser. If you are willing to render yourself unclean, as in the second story, if you are willing to flee the situation, as Prophet Yusuf did, you will be able to have a purity that will enable you to get close to God. It is very, very important for us, especially those of us living in Europe, living in the United States, in Canada, the Western world, that we not compromise who we are with the world. That we hold fast to what our God has given us. He has given us the keys to paradise. The path is not onerous. The path is not difficult if we're but mindful of Him. If we're but mindful that everything around us is a sign that our God is with us. He's with us in the guidance, the guiding lights that He has given to us. He's with us in the good friends that He has provided us with. He's with us if we are mindful of Him through dhikr, constantly refreshing ourselves with Himself. And if we can keep ourselves pure, recognize temptation for what it is, that it's going to lead us astray, being creative in avoiding temptation, that is paramount. In the Western world, where life is not based on religious values, it's based on secular values. We need to be very aware of what is about us and to try to avoid that which is going to compromise our faith. Modesty, or I should really say immodesty, is rife in the Western world. And that's but a foot in the door to leading to other things that will compromise our faith. We as men need to protect ourselves from what we see, and women need to do the same. So hopefully these sessions will be good on enabling you to have a closer relationship to your God. I bid you all farewell. May God bless you and your families. Assalamu alaikum.
مژده یاران گل در آمد، مژده یاران گل در آمد، عاشقان را رهبر آمد، عاشقان را رهبر آمد، روح و ریحان پیمبر، روح